walleye don't all grow the same. The biggest fish in your lake is almost always a female. That giant you're chasing didn't get lucky. She got there by living longer, eating smarter, and carrying a job the small fish never take on. And that job is the whole story. It's why she outgrows every male in the water. It's why she outlives them. It's why she's worth more than any other fish you'll touch all year. Stay with me. By the end, you won't look at a big walleye the same way again. Let's get into it. Start with a simple truth. Male and female walleye are built on two different plans. They're the same species. They spend their energy in completely different ways. And that split is why the trophies are almost always girls. A male matures fast. Minnesota and Ontario studies put most males spawning by age 2 to 4, at a length around 11 inches. From then on, a big share of his energy goes into making milt every single spring. Growth takes a back seat. Most males settle into a smaller adult size and stay there. A female plays a longer game. She matures later. Most females don't spawn until age 3 to 6, when they're closer to 14 inches. She pours those early years into pure growth before she ever spawns. And once she does spawn, her body is built to carry an enormous load. Pre-spawn, her egg mass can reach up to 37% of her total body weight. Think about that. Over a third of her body is next spring's fish. That's the engine. Slower to start, but a much higher ceiling. The oldest walleye in a lake are routinely females. Good numbers push past 15, and some go beyond 20 years old, and we can check this. Biologists read a walleye's age from a tiny ear bone called an otolith. It lays down growth rings a little like a tree. When crews pull the old fish and count the rings, the pattern holds up again. And again. The giants are old, and the old ones are mostly females. There's a second reason the size gap keeps widening. A male's yearly milt is cheap to build. A female's egg load is expensive. So every spring she has to bank enough energy to build it. In a good food year, she can grow fast and still spawn. In a lean year, growth stalls, but she keeps going. She's playing for the long haul, and the long haul is where trophies come from. So when you picture a true trophy, picture an old female. She survived the lean winters, she dodged the nets and the eagles and the bigger pike for 2 decades. Length and weight are really just a record of how long she's been winning. Now, look at the records. Here's how heavy the ceiling gets when a female wins for 2 decades. On the 13th of May, 1979, a man named LeRoy Chiovitte was fishing above the rapids, where the Seagull River drops into Lake Saganaga on the Minnesota-Ontario border. He landed a walleye that weighed 17 pounds, 8 ounces, 35 3/4 inches long, a 21 1/4 inch girth. That fish is still the Minnesota state record. Nobody has beaten it in 47 years. Go one step higher. On the 2nd of August, 1960, a man named Mabry Harper caught a walleye out of Old Hickory Lake in Tennessee. 25 pounds, 4 ounces, 41 inches long, a 29-inch girth. That fish held the world record for decades. It was stripped in the 1990s on a photo analysis, and then reinstated by the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame in 2019 after scale samples, and the head photograph were reviewed again. A 25-pound walleye is almost certainly an old female who spawned for 15 springs before she ever met a hook. And that's the pattern. When somebody puts a fish over 10 pounds on a scale, the biology tells you what she is before the calipers do. Short-bodied, deep-bellied, heavy in the middle. That is a female who has been spawning for a decade or more. The camera loves her. The lake needs her. Here's where a lot of good anglers miss it. We treat every big walleye the same. A giant hits the net and the only question is the cooler. Or the camera. That feels normal. It's also the exact moment the biology stops being trivia and starts mattering. Because a big female isn't just a bigger version of a small one. When it comes to eggs, size doesn't add up in a straight line. It stacks. Do the math. Published fisheries work puts a 5-pound female walleye at more than 100,000 eggs in one spring. A 10-pound female can push north of 200,000. A true state record class fish can carry 300,000 or more. One old female can outspawn a whole cooler full of smaller fish. That's not opinion. That's peer-reviewed fecundity data from Ontario, Minnesota, and the Great Lakes. She isn't a trophy the lake can easily replace. She is the factory. Kill her, and you didn't just take a fish home. You took next year's year class home with her. There's more to it than raw numbers. Fisheries scientists have a name for these fish. They call them the big old fat fecund females. And they matter beyond just egg count. Larger, older mothers often produce eggs and fry with a better shot at surviving those brutal first weeks. So she isn't only spawning more, she may be spawning better. Losing her cost the lake twice. If she's 15 years old, she has spawned more than a decade of springs. Every strong year class in your lake has some of her in it. She's not just a fish you caught, she's a big piece of why there are fish to catch at all. The whole system already knows this. The pike know where she stages, the eagles know, and the regulations on a lot of managed lakes are literally built around her. Wisconsin's ceded territory limits kick in at 15 inches, then protect every walleye from 20 to 24 inches, and let you keep only one fish above that. Michigan just added a protected slot on Lake Independence and Teal Lake this spring. 18 to 23 inches, mandatory release. Those numbers aren't random. They are drawn around the size class where a female becomes a top-tier egg producer. That protected slot you grumble about is guarding the factory, so here's how you put it to work. 3 ideas, in order. First, learn to read a big fish for what she is. A short, heavy, deep-bellied walleye in the spring is almost certainly a loaded female. Length plus girth is your tell. That state record fish had a girth of 21 inches on a 35-inch body. That's shorter and rounder than most anglers picture. Once you recognize her shape, you handle her like she's worth more because she is. Second, think selective harvest. If you want fish for the pan, keep the smaller eater-size ones. Those are the fish a lake produces in bulk. Let the giants swim. You lose almost no meat and you leave the best egg producer in the water for next spring. This is not new advice. Ontario's Quetico wilderness went to a slot regulation in the 1980s. Wisconsin's ceded territory rules have been in place since the mid-90s. The lakes that adopted these limits early are the same lakes still producing giants today. That is not a coincidence. Third, if you're releasing a big female, release her clean. Wet your hands first. Support her belly, never dangle her by the jaw. Keep her out of the air about as long as you can hold your own breath. The bigger and older the fish, the more that careful handling matters, especially in warm water. Do those 3 things and you're not just catching trophies. You're keeping the pipeline that makes them. That's the difference between a lake that produces one giant and a lake that keeps producing them for decades. Now the concept is the easy part, and it's yours, free and complete. The messy part is your lake. The exact slot rules, the water temp where a warm water release gets risky, the spots where the old females really stage on your water. That changes lake to lake. We keep the lake-by-lake map over at walleyewranglers.com. Zoom all the way out. Every state record in every state started as a fish somebody could have kept and didn't. LeRoy Chiovitte's Minnesota giant swam past a lot of other boats before she hit his rig in 1979. The trophies you chase tomorrow are swimming around right now because of choices being made today. Now you know which fish is which. Get out there. Catch more walleye.